Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to everyone around the world joining us for another episode of DECRYPTED. This week, we're going to be jumping into some awesome topics. We're going to be talking about is institutional adoption good? There was a great, thought piece that came out of the Coinbase guy. Oh, sorry. We're going to be talking about quantum with Ethereum's big announcement.
Do you want me to do this? Give it another shot.
You can try that again. Oh God! I just
man.
Oh my God!
That's why people like it.
Okay, let's try it again.
No, it's a noise. You out here. Hey, we're going to talk about quantum resistance. Ethereum just funded this big quantum resistance effort. Is this all BS? Do we really need to worry about it or not? Well, we've got one of the world's foremost experts here, Stan, talking about it. We're going to talk about UK crypto legislation, and yeah, we're gonna anything else, guys. I've got a wild card to throw out there as well.
There is,
last one. One more topic. We're talking about UK. What's going on with the UK and crypto? We're also going to talk about let's see, potentially AI and protecting yourself, like having like a barrier between you and your AI searches. Let's rock and roll, man. Let's do it.
We weren't very good with that, were we? That wasn't the best that we've done. I'm gonna.
Let's start over. No, just kidding. Let's get in the first topic.
You know what? Because I was going through all of that UK, the UK notes, and my mind, but like there's just so much. My mind just broke when looking at all of the stuff on the UK.
This whole UK, we were going to talk about just the stablecoin thing. There's like 50 things that are happening. So yeah, let's talk about quantum. I think quantum's an easy topic to get into. Stan, what the hell is going on with quantum resistance?
Yes, so basically I can tell you guys, in my previous life, you probably know I was a physicist, and actually I worked a lot on this stuff. And my former boss at Stanford, he was a Nobel Prize winner on quantum Hall effect. So that's actually my subject before I moved to computer science. But basically, to give you like a short explanation, the world, as we know, it's not like we suspect it is, right? So there's like this Newtonian explanation of the world where there are particles, there are masses of the particles, there are objects, everything we used to, like velocity, gravitation. But then when the temperature becomes really small, all the scales become very small. So you have nanoscales, you have potentially very low temperature or very isolated molecules. The laws of physics totally break. And to a certain degree, we know how they break. To a certain degree, we don't know for sure. What's known is that the things become really parallel. So in a famous example of Schrödinger cat, when the cat becomes tiny, if you have a nano cat, it starts living these parallel lives. And then in one of those lives, it may die. In one of those lives, it may survive. That's why it's called Schrödinger cat, because when the cat becomes tiny, then you don't even know if it's dead or if it's alive. So there could be like parallel universes. In one of them, the cat dies. In the other one, it survives.
Okay, but Stan, I want to let's go even further back here. So we've got literally a world expert. You got to realize we're talking to somebody who won the entire national math competition in Ukraine in high school, completely excelled at math and physics, won the top physics award at probably the top physics university in the entire world, and then was at like two of the top places in the world studying this stuff. What the hell is quantum computing, Stan? What is a quantum? What does that mean? Break it, like be a little more like, because we have people that are probably like, I keep hearing about this. My Bitcoin's going to go away. Like, what is a quantum computer compared to a normal computer?
So basically, like to explain in very short, what we know about physics at very small scales and at tiny temperatures is that objects become living parallel lives. And because of that, because objects start living parallel lives, computation can potentially be improved like zillion times. A quantum computer can be massively parallel. So to give you an example, if you have your CPU in your phone or maybe a CPU in your desktop, right? It's probably like 32 cores, roughly, that's the level of being parallel. So it does things in parallel, meaning concurrently, or, the computation becomes faster because things are done in parallel, right? So, but a quantum computer can do things in unimaginable ways parallel. It may be a billion, maybe a zillion, and potentially because of these laws that we don't actually know well how they work, the computational power of a quantum computer is just, we don't even know how fast it can be. The problem is that it's incredibly, with the tools that we have, with our technology, the thing is almost unachievable because it's very brittle. It needs to have tiny temperatures, so you need to cool it to almost absolute zero. And also, it's brittle, so you have to isolate it. So if you have a quantum computer, people do things like they actually, like, the atoms levitate in a magnetic field, and then they levitate, and no one touches them. And then also the temperature is zero. So potentially it's a machine that can break anything. It can just brute force any cryptographic algorithm, but we are probably like really far away from building this machine. That's kind of the two things.
I was just kind of like talking to ChatGPT here, trying to understand what you're saying more. So here's an interesting dynamic, and let's go a little deeper. A normal computer uses bits. It means like 0 and 1 can't be, nothing can be 0 and 1 at the same time. But a quantum computer can actually exactly at the same time understand 0 and 1.
Exactly.
And from any degree of distance. Like two dice, the same thing, no matter how far apart they are, no matter how much concurrently other things are happening. So it sounds like the laws of physics allow computation to happen like massively similarly at the same time, i.e. parallel.
Exactly.
And that's why, like, so let's say you want to brute force an algorithm. In a regular computer, it's going to take it X amount of days. It might take like 50 years to get through like some, like some elliptical curve to like crack the number. But a quantum computer can just look at the same time a gazillion times and be able to crack something really fast. Is that kind of like a dumb way to describe it, but maybe real?
Yeah, totally. And I'll give you another way to see it. If you remember the movie Back to the Future, right? The main character of the movie goes back in time, and suddenly he sees himself. So there are two copies. Essentially, he clones himself. Imagine that the guy in the movie would like loop like this million times. Then there will be a million copies of himself, and then each of them could do some computation, but the computation would be like million times more parallel. Yeah. So this is basically, so this touches on very fundamental things on how we understand quantum dynamics, and are there actually parallel worlds? So are there like parallel universes? And on small scale, it looks like there is something like that. And it allows these parallel universes, essentially. If you're able to do computation in parallel universes, you can do parallel computation. And so what's been happening is that it's very hard to do. And there was no financing for many years. Basically at the end of the Cold War, after the end of the Cold War, there was not so much financing for physics in general. But now, these huge companies like the Magnificent Seven that we talked about last time, they're suddenly starting invest lots of money. And so they're building prototypes for quantum computers, which are still very weak and very brittle, but it's a big unknown whether at some point there is a breakthrough. and suddenly, they get it. It's kind of hard to assign probability to like a scientific invention, right? So
yeah, I mean, my personal view on all of this, like quantum, like impacting our work, is just that I also feel like as quantum develops, so will quantum cryptography techniques, right? So can't you also eventually use quantum to make things even more difficult for the quantum, right? It's not like it's a one-sided arms race where like we still have like swords and knives and these other people keep developing guns. Like, no, you're going to like, everybody's going to kind of develop technologically at the similar rate, whether you're an attacker or a defender. Is that true?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. And that actually, this kind of means that also it's kind of a problem because there are some kind of ways to do quantum computing, and the algorithms that are quantum computing resistant are resistant not in general to quantum computing, but into a particular like machines. And the problem is that it may well be that the machines, the quantum computers of the future, will not be like what the current scientists think the best design is, and then the algorithms become useless. So there's a little bit, it's good in a sense that there is like a attack and defense, but it's not super bulletproof in the sense that it may defend against something, and then the attackers come back with something else, and then the defense will change. So it may be just the first iteration. But on the other hand, no one knows, because if people invent quantum computers, it may be such incredible computational power that the universe will change anyway. We don't even know what's going to happen.
About this Ethereum investment, because that's what the story was. Ethereum put $2 million into quantum research, and I'm kind of like, one, if you're Ethereum's worth like, I don't know what their market cap is today, like a shitload, and they have the foundation of a ton of money. $2 million is kind of nothing unless they for some reason are paying engineers and researchers who probably could be making $500,000 to $1 million a year. That's probably the level of talent you need to actually do quantum. So you're going to employ 1 or 2 engineers for 1 or 2 years. Like, that's not really like,
also the infrastructure you're going to need, like the actual computers and technology. I mean, like,
you can do the testing. That's a good point.
It's impossible. Like you can theorize it. I'm sure that there are simulation models out there, but to actually make a working thing, like how much is a quantum computer? Isn't it like billions upon billions of dollars?
Yeah, and it's like it's like basically building an anti-aircraft defense where there's no aircraft and you don't know how the aircraft actually flies. But being a scientist, I'm a little bit cynical and ironic. I love all of this stuff. At the end, I don't really care if it makes sense or if it's practical or not. Scientists will get some money. So I actually approve this entire thing, but it's just like basically currently it's very early stages, but it's good. But it's
do you think it was more of a sexy headline than an actual actionable kind of thing?
Exactly.
Okay.
And if we invent quantum computers and then AI will be like zillion times more powerful, we don't even know what's going to happen, if we will need crypto or whatever. The life will change totally. So that it may be one of the greatest inventions of humankind that gets invented. So, but now it's good. It's good that people are doing it, but we don't know how it's going to work ultimately. So people have some ideas how it's going to work and how to protect, which is good, I think. But it's interesting, but it's not at the moment yet industrially viable, I think.
You think this is? I feel like this is actually like a stupid question, right? So if quantum computing can allow the reading of ones and zeros both at the same time or like none at all, does that? And this is nothing really related, but does that then mean that storage devices are going to need to get a lot bigger if you're going to be able to read currently we have 1 or 0, right? We have 2 bits. Like that's your storage, right? If you are going to be able to do 1 0 0 1 1 1 0 0 like as a singular like
Mhm.
reading, does that not mean that storage is about to get like
Explode.
super full? Yeah, it's gonna go massive.
Absolutely. And then there's actually a scientist, I highly recommend you guys watch his videos. There's a Nobel Prize winner, a British scientist. His name is Roger Penrose, and he's like 90. He spent his entire life like doing these quantum things. And he has this idea that in neurons, in human neurons, but in general, in neurons of any animals, there are these things which are very tiny, like tiny threads called microtubules. And the cell is actually held, the shape of the cell is held by this microtubules or the skeleton inside the cell. And so Roger Penrose has this idea that these microtubules isolated so much that there is a quantum computing and quantum storage running. So he has this idea that human consciousness essentially is a quantum computer hidden inside the neuron, inside of these microtubules. So then it has lots of storage, it's quantum storage, quantum computing. So potentially, and I think quantum, it's almost for sure that quantum computer is going to be kind of a human. So we'll also have like ethical problems. Like it will probably have like conscious. And then it's going to be interesting. Maybe it will just decide on moral grounds not to break code.
Avengers, that's like Thanos's crew there, like leveraging this quantum.
Yeah. It was what was it? Vision, right?
It was like, it's a good stuff.
It's interesting. I think it's going to. I mean, we were in the age of information, right? Over the past 40, 50 years, and it seems like now we are getting into that age of technology, right? The golden age of technology versus the golden age of information.
So hey, let's keep on topic here. Let's talk about UK. I think in summary though, Stan, there's a lot to worry about in the future, but it's probably not for a while. Right?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, I think, for the scientists. But
like it just going to completely like change things. But at the same time, hey, maybe the new Bitcoin will be something that is a world different than even something we could imagine. It doesn't mean crypto is going away. It's just going to evolve.
Yeah, I think they can change the algorithm. They can try protect against it. It will be fun, but I don't think they're actually able to protect now, because how do you protect against an aircraft? Like, how do you build a air defense against, if you don't know how the aircraft will fly at all? You've never seen one.
Like, hey, how do you like build a defense against an alien invasion when you're like, okay, well, who are the aliens? What weapons do they have? You don't know. Like, you're just guessing, kind of, right? With you have some math to look at, but okay. All right. Well, hey, I think if nothing else, it was probably a good headline for Ethereum that they're doing something. Like, for those of us that know how much it costs to actually make an impact on this stuff, we're probably like, yeah, it's a little light. But hey, we're moving the ball forward. Let's talk about the UK, because here's the thing, like, Scale One has a very big UK community. We love our UK brothers over there and sisters and UK family. And it just seems like some of the, there's a big headline this week about like another, what I would say is like anti-crypto law. It's like, it's not progressively, let's embrace crypto. It's like the opposite. And there's some good reasons for some of these things, but there's also like a thing to say like, hey, you're going to completely kill innovation, and you're going to take every entrepreneur and they're going to leave your country. You're going to take businesses, they're going to leave your country, and your people are not going to be able to participate. And I don't know, how does it feel being over there, Ben? And like, I don't know if you want to give any sort of like updates or overviews. I can dig into it if you do it.
I think it's interesting, right? Because what's like A16Z? They moved over here to London. They moved to London like couple of years ago. I assume they've left now because our initial rules were relatively laxed. I think the biggest issue that kind of came to pass was it was all tax related. Nobody in crypto was paying their taxes, whether you were working whether you were working as an employee or a business, or if you were trading crypto. Those people were not paying their taxes, and it was impossible for them to kind of track it down. But they've what's the saying? One person just ruins it for everyone. They've just now kind of just done a clean sweep of, listen, we're gonna hit you with everything. That what they'll do and what that normally happens is they'll peel the rules back as time goes on. But I mean, these initial kind of they're trying to close every single loophole they can find, and yeah, it's not good for innovation. It's not good for individuals, and it's definitely going to. I mean, the UK crypto scene is already relatively small as it is from a business standpoint, and now it's just going to continue to get smaller.
So let me give an overview of some of these things, and then Stan, I want to hear your thoughts on these. So, like, one, they have this thing called financial promotions regime, where if you firms cannot market to UK consumers unless they are FCA authorized or have their ads approved by an authorized firm. Basically, it just kind of makes it impossible for Binance, Bybit, Coinbase, etc., to market to UK consumers unless you like really want to comply as like a public company. And so you've got that. And then
to be fair, that has been in place for about 20 years. And
it looks like it has, but it was tightened in 2024 through 2025. Let me give an overview, and then we can dig in. So then two, there's just like massive debanking of crypto firms, which that happened in the US for a long time too. And then all of a sudden you can't use a bank there because you do crypto, like you have to go somewhere else, money flight, etc. Companies leave. Again, more FCA regulatory barriers, like 85% of applicants are essentially like being turned down, and it's causing a brain drain. The travel rule policy. So basically, if you are going to send a transaction from a wallet and exchange to a different one, you have to be able to claim that that's yours. You can't just send it to some other address. Like right now on Coinbase in the US or Binance in Singapore, I say, oh, Stan, I'm going to send you 10 USDC. I owe you that. I can send it to Stan, and it doesn't matter if it's my wallet or his, but you can't do that in the UK. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's impossible to enforce, but it is, it is, continues with the tax liability thing. But yeah.
Then there's the other element, the controlling person trap for DeFi. So let's say you have a decentralized protocol. They say, well, we're going to assign a controlling person, whether that be developers holding like multi-sig keys, foundation, or a DAO. And they basically don't believe in the premise of decentralization. And, what impact does that have on projects, especially if they're, group run and done by voting? The biggest thing for me is a stablecoin thing. We're going to at least should talk about that entirely on its own. Like what they're doing essentially to like pause or stop stablecoin adoption. And what's going to happen, like a fear for a lot of people that are pro economy and England and UK is that they want to have like a really good GBP, like stable pound. But if they don't, then everyone's just going to start using like stable USD, and their currency has their risk. But then if they adopt GBP, like, stable pound, whatever the heck it's going to be called, then there's issues of like, well, that actually hurts the banking system because they're worried that's like going to make an impact on the way loans, and people just, why go to a bank? I can get 4% over here, and I'm not worried about the bank issuing, loans with my savings account to people. So, anyways, that's a high level. We can get into more. There's even more, but it seems like they're everyone was thinking about this stuff, and like Europe with Mika took some positive steps. The US Clarity Act and trying to, Genius, all these things, we're trying to do it, but UK is going the other way. Stan, what do you think?
I think, I remember like when I was a child, I was reading this. I was really fan of Conan Doyle, and I was reading books about Empire, the British Empire, and Sherlock Holmes, like living in London. And I remember just from the books that you could like do pretty much anything at that time. Like Sherlock Holmes was like, I think he was like injecting morphine in the book, right? He was constantly like doing opium and morphine just to improve his like state of mind. So that was time, but pretty much everything was free, and somehow the empire, and there was no regulations, and the empire somehow became the largest empire ever, like in the world, the British Empire, right? So my boss, former boss at Stanford, wrote this book. It's available on Amazon. It's called Crime Over Reason. Basically, like the world is moving to the point where anything interesting is getting prohibited, and the regulations are just increasing. And basically, there's nothing you can do. Anything you're trying to do, you can go to jail. And so, I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be really bad for the UK. I think like definitely taxes are a problem, but there are some proposals. For instance, people propose universal sales tax, which is really simple, right? Instead of taxing people's profits or income, you just tax luxury items when they buy, right? If someone buys like a $10 million home, you tax like 20% of it, whatever, like 50% of it. If someone buys a Mercedes, it's a very simple tax. And then if you have a sales tax, then it's really hard to avoid being taxed, right? Because essentially, if you don't buy anything, only then you don't get taxed. So I think like the society will have to change anyway, because what's going to happen is that people are going to move somewhere else. The digital nomads will fly from the UK to like whatever, Dubai, and then what? What is the UK going to gain, right?
Yeah. So here's a crazy thing to think about here, which I'm going to try to play a little devil's advocate. So, but also like I'm teeing up, putting a softball out there for you guys to hit it out of the park. But people who are against stable coins, especially being able to earn yield on a stable coin, here's their case. So right now, let's say I have $1,000 or £1,000 in my bank account in the central bank of England or whatever it's called. They're going to take $900 and give it to loans for people to buy homes, mortgages. Okay. So banks make money. You give them your money, and then they give you a very little bit to hold your money there. And they actually give it to other people. And they have the backing of the government to make sure that they don't have like a total default. Okay. Now, if people realize I can go take that £1,000 and put it into a stable coin, get even more interest, and all that money has to sit secured one-to-one in a bank somewhere, then individuals aren't going to go to banks. They're going to go to stable coins. And then the money that they keep in the bank theoretically can't be lent out. Otherwise, the stable coin could fail. And so what it does is it will make interest rates skyrocket. It ruins basically the current structure. And I think the opportunity is maybe the current structure is broken, right? But it's basically a much safer, higher yield version of a savings account than this current like weird banking system we have. But
it's 4x, right? It's a minimum of 4x, and there is that level of fear, right? Like if I look at my bank account right now, my interest rate is 1%. It's 1% gross. I actually don't even know what the difference on that means, but it's 1% gross, right? Whilst I can go and, if I wanted to, go and get 4%, 5%, 6%. I think at one point I saw Coinbase doing like 11% USDC interest rates, or I could get even more cheeky and go throw it in Solana or something. But the other thing as well is your level of fear of banks collapsing and things like that is decreased, right? And you don't have to hold it in GBP either, right? If you as an individual don't trust your currency, right? Like for example, you guys, your dollar has shot down recently. If you don't trust the US dollar, you could have gone and put it in the euro stablecoin or something like that. So you have a very easy way to access a multitude of foreign currencies as well, and continue to earn interest rates and APR that way.
What do you think, Stan?
I think that's kind of in Europe in general. I think the Europe, as unfortunately, there are like some of these problems. They multiply, and the societies So there has to be some like reset. I don't know how it's gonna happen. We just discussed today with our Portuguese team members, like what's going on in Portugal, and it seems like the world is changing, but the governments are not changing, and there has to be like some new system, some type of reset. But no one knows how it's gonna work. But people see that the governments like start acting randomly, and I don't know. I mean, it's a big problem in Europe, I think, also because Europe, in the States, you have like one country, but Europe is a collection of small and big countries. It's a very complex system. And then, sometimes it's just whatever creates something. No one knows why this particular regulation was created. And
yeah, you know what? That's also like you look at, and I'm looking even more here, like, and in the US, you see Brian Armstrong arguing. And what's happening is there's this lobbying group that the banks have, and they're aggressively trying to remove any and all interest yield from any stablecoin products, at least that are centrally held. If you go use Morpho in a decentralized way, I don't think they are trying to stop that. But for normal people who just like keep their money in Coinbase, well, you're getting X% interest. They're trying to stop the exchanges from doing that. And the reason why is they say it threatens the entire banking model. And I think that's the big thing that like people have to get their head around is like, you start doing some stuff just because it's normal. And, it wasn't, everyone was backed by gold, and then they moved to like, their own backing of their own currency in like the 70s. And then like the whole, interest, everyone started getting loans and interest rates that were super high. And now they've kind of dropped over time. And we have this system that, let's be honest, keeps breaking every 10 or 15 years. So should it move? Should it change? Or is that going to be too much conflict to like kind of break that? Because it really is the driver behind the economy in a lot of ways.
So their fear is the breaking of that, right? Which is less people would put their money into banks. They wouldn't be able to throw out loans.
Which kills the economy, which kills economic growth, right? Like that's the fear.
But exchanges have to have one-to-ones in banks. So you're already getting...
Yeah, but
bank?
I think they may be limited in what they can do with that. They're in a vault. They can't just go and loan that.
Because USDC is also
or maybe they
a one-to-one. Yeah.
The fix is just being able to change what they can loan.
Exactly.
Super transparent about where it is. But like when USDC fell off peg during like that nightmare moment, we talked about this recently, I think on maybe the last show where
I think it was like,
Silicon Valley Bank went under. And we didn't know if the government was going to bail out SVB, but it was 8% of the reserve. And they were very transparent. Here's our reserves. The price fell to 0.92 of a dollar, which was essentially like a very pure market response to 8% potentially being gone.
Yeah.
And then, it was backed. But like that's an issue, right? If the banks just take the money, loan it out, and they have all these default loans, and we have this like credit issue.
Yeah.
Fail, this doesn't solve that problem. But I guess to your point, like maybe who cares? It's just another way of like, the banks basically are losing revenue too, I think is the issue. Because they're just not getting, they're not the ones giving the interest, it's somebody else.
Yeah. Stan?
I think, it's a situation where like in the US, it's very clear that for America as a country, for Americans, having a stable coin USDC is the best it can be, right? Because it means the entire world, the Americans need to make the entire world use dollar as easy as possible, right? So for the US citizens, for the country of the United States, like everything should be on blockchain, and they should put as many like dollars as possible, right? But there is this industry banks that actually it's a tiny industry. If you compare like banking industry in the States, compare it to technology, right? It's nothing. So there is this industry relatively tiny compared to like the Magnificent Seven, and these guys just dinosaurs. They just can't survive this, and they will fight. I think that's really the reality. And they actually, their role in the U.S. economy is not so much. They're getting bailed out all the time. They don't have much revenue. They just either like hold their treasuries or give mortgages to have this tiny So the banking industry in the US compared to like tech is nothing, but it's kind of holding up. Maybe Coinbase ends up like acquiring all of the US banks, like, or maybe like Google acquires like all of them, and they just like die this way, because that's actually I think what's happening.
Yep, it's interesting. There's this like I don't know what the number is, but there's this like unwritten rule of if a country's GDP ends up becoming a certain amount banking, that it's really soon going to have like a huge issue. And if you think about it, like, let's say we're back in a village in the 1600s, and somebody is like tanning hides, somebody is like hunting and selling meat, someone's farming and selling that. There's this little economy. And then there's somebody who's like, oh, I'll hold your money and I'll give you some return. And then the other people, I'll give you loans for your businesses. Well, if the economic output is then too much controlled by the bank, the whole system suffers, right? You need to have like actual producers, not just bankers making. And so if banks make it too much, it actually is like fundamentally flawed at a really basic level. And and I think like this is a pushback against that, to say, hey, yeah, maybe you shouldn't be making that much money. Maybe it's the people are building products and building roads and building civil infrastructure and taking care of sick people. Like, maybe the money should be going in these other categories more than just banking too. Maybe their market share is going to drop.
Is that why we're seeing like a lot more exchanges and even, I think I've seen even some projects trying to get into banking, like, so they can begin to have a bit more sway and
licenses. If you want to operate as a bank, there's a lot you can do as a crypto project, but it's really hard to get that sort of like compliance standard.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm for banks. Like, and like I think, right, I love to see like things evolve. Like, I guess my closing thoughts on this, and I want to hear both your closing thoughts, is like, we've only really had the internet working in a user way for like 30-ish years, right? And if you think about that, a lot of banking then also has evolved in the last 30 years. Humans have been around for a really, really long time. If you think that like we're at the end state, I think you're complete, like, and look how much superior crypto rails are than like using Swift and other products, like, so other technologies. So I think we're just going to have a lot of change, but I hope it doesn't happen too fast that it like, crushes big piece of the economy, like construction and things that are center around loans and banks, et cetera. But they're definitely going to get disrupted. I don't see any way in hell they don't have major disruption happen.
I think it's a really good point. And I think as time has gone on, especially over the past like 10, 20 years, change is scary to a lot of people, especially people that are cemented in the likes of banks or, high up in governments. They've spent their entire life learning and doing something a certain way. And we as an industry move very quickly. We move very fast. We went from Bitcoin doing, 3 transactions a minute up to this point, infinite number of transactions at an infinite speed. And that is imagine a bank being able, the banking system being able to do that jump. It would take them hundreds of years. But for us as an industry, we can and we are moving so fast, and it is just scary. And to your point, Jack, yeah, it's like we don't want to move too fast, because you'll get people like the UK who just come out and go, no, ban it. We're done. We don't want to we don't understand. We don't want to deal with it. There's too many loopholes and potential things that can go wrong. We're done. And I think that if we can, we almost need to slow down to succeed and begin to bring these other people with us on the journey who don't understand it, and then we'll be able to get a better outcome.
Yeah. What do you think, Stan?
I can only think about the Game of Thrones, because in Game of Thrones was this Iron Bank, and guys remember the Iron Bank? They were doing the bad things. And like
Australia Rock.
Right, the beautiful queen, and the beautiful queen was like borrowing money from them. Remember this? But someone in the office told me this morning that there are two installments. There's a new Game of Thrones like prequel, and I missed it. So I'm going home today to watch it.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's off the book. The book's really good too, and it's like George R. R. Martin. It's like, dude, come on, release the last books. But he's never doing others. Help. He's a producer on the show. Like, by the way, I met him once. I was in Santa Fe. I was with my dad, and he owns this little movie theater in Santa Fe that was just going out of business. He's like, oh, we can't this is Americana. We got to keep these little tiny theaters. And he turned it into a bar and a theater. It's like a really cool place. And they were doing a Game of Thrones launch. I didn't even know it. And I just went with my dad. I was like, hey, let's go there and get a drink. And we went there and got a drink. And then they're like, hey, we're doing Game of Thrones here tomorrow. Do you guys want to come? We got 2 extra tickets. And we're like, really? So we got to go to this like release party. There's all these celebrities there. And we showed up like a little late because we're noobs. We didn't know everyone else was showing up an hour early to like rub elbows. But we got there late. We go to the bar to get a drink. And it's still late. It's like 5 minutes before the show still. And then George R. R. Martin's right there at the bar. And my dad's just talking to him for like 10 minutes.
Wow.
I'm looking at him like, I don't think he has any fucking clue who he's talking to. and then we're like, I went over. And then I was like, I went over at the end. I was like, hey, just really love your work. We're excited to see you. Oh, good. Let's get in there. And then I told my dad, I was like, you were just talking to George R. R. Martin. He's like, who's that? It's like, all right. So hey, I think we could also I'm going to put a close on one other topic. I just feel like we're talking about institutional adoption. There's this thing went pretty viral on crypto Twitter where essentially someone was like, F all this institutional stuff. We're here for the cypherpunk movement. And then someone else was like, hey, these things aren't really like mutually exclusive. Come on, like good for you. But like, why do you think this is bad? And I got to say, I agree with that take. I think like the way that crypto eventually evolves and permeates and like lives in different spaces of society is that institutions have to adopt it. And hey, if you want to be a builder and have like stable coins in your, utilized in apps, it's going to be a lot easier if everybody has stable coins automatically in their phone. Okay. Because they work Bank of America. Oh, my Bank of America USDC. Like, great. It's going to make crypto. And then your cypherpunk movements are still going to move forward. People are going to find that even more attractive because they're like, well, hey, I can use even better tech without all this governmental control and profit rent seeking. So that's my thing is like these things. It's just a bad take to think that like institutional adoption's bad.
Yeah, I agree.
Stan, you're still thinking about Game of Thrones. It's okay.
I think
you're gonna like it.
I agree. I think like maybe I'm serious. I think it may actually end up with like if like Coinbase ends up like semi-acquiring or acquiring banks, then that may be actually the fastest path, right? Like if they don't actually the price of a bank, the total shares, it's not so much like to buy up all of the US banks and then. And the UK banks are even like way smaller, right? So maybe they just literally people just need to like buy up shares and then change the way. So because these guys are just creating lots of problems and they are not, they're super rigid in a sense that they're like not changing at all. The way they talk now is the same they've been talking like for a while. So
yeah, okay, so yeah, and Ben, any last thoughts? Totally agree, Stan.
Yes. I agree.
We'll go to the next one. I agree. Okay. Yeah. All right, let's go to the next one. We got limited time here. So AI, okay? Like let's talk about AI for a second. So one, there was this thing had a kind of a funny I guess like clickbait title. It was like quit raw dogging your AI, personal AI searches. So basically imagine you're like asking AI kind of personal things you don't want everybody to know, just like with your Google searches. Apparently there's tools you can use to have this like this protection between you and the AI, and you ask that thing and then that thing asks the AI and it doesn't build up this repository of you. Because here's the thinking of why you don't want to do that. My theory here is that like if AI is that smart, AI is going to probably be the one hiring you someday for your job. It's going to be the one that's determining if you're guilty or innocent in a court of law if AI gets really good. And then they're like, well, that search you made back in 2026 about this really it showed you don't have very good judgment. We're employable. I think that's what people are worried about. But one, like, isn't it interesting that there's this whole new category of products being built to like be the shield between a person and an AI? What do you think about it? And like, that's got to have involved some cryptography, right?
I actually think, that if you think about this, it's one of the possible solutions is X402, because the reason that AI knows about you is because you have a subscription, right? Yeah. They don't really even care about like storing your information, most of these companies, but you have to have a subscription, you have to have a credit card, and this kind of creates this trail. So this is maybe one where X402 can play a big role, because if you can use micropayments to talk to ChatGPT, then you don't have to tell anything about yourself. You can just pay as you go. So I think I know that many people actually are scared about, and many people don't want this history. I've heard many conversations about that. It's definitely a problem. People don't like this fact that it's all recorded. So I think
it looks like the founder of Signal is using trusted execution environments, which Scale uses for all Scale privacy, to provide you with guarantees for basically privacy and security. And it's called confer.to. I mean, it's interesting. Like, that's, hey, if you start Signal, you're pretty, how to, that's the world's most adopted, I'd say, privacy product out there, right?
But yeah, but Jack, and another thing I want to say is that the reason why people use cloud AI is because it takes lots of computation. But there are the new chips like NVIDIA and other companies are developing next generation chips. So several years from now, you'll be able to run ChatGPT at home. And then it's going to be more like Microsoft Word, more Microsoft Office, in the sense that it will be private. So
that's what everyone's doing now with Claudebot, isn't it? Like, I'm not sure if you guys saw the Claudebot stuff. Like, everyone's out there buying Mac Minis and connecting it to Telegram, and they have their own AI, personal piece of AI software that they're talking to through Telegram.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it's called Claudebot.
Like Raspberry Pis. Do people still use Raspberry Pis?
Yeah, people are using Raspberry Pis for it, like shitty little laptops, like so many things, and they just have they have their own like deconnected personal AI software bot. That's what the info is doing.
Absolutely, Ben. And NVIDIA, if you guys saw the actual announcement from NVIDIA, they have a personal supercomputer. It's basically a pretty small box, maybe a little bit bigger than Mac Mini, but not so much. And it's kind of has lots of NVIDIA chips inside. And presumably you can also run something like ChatGPT on it. So I think like several years from now, the chips will progress so much that you'll have your own inside of your like whatever wherever you live, you'll have your own thing, and then this problem will disappear. Because I know many people that are not happy about this, giving everything.
I would love to just have a little machine, and then imagine if you could. I mean, I'm not too worried about. I don't like I'm a transparent person. I'm not too worried about what I'm searching for or whatever. But it's like at the same time, like, why just give everybody? You're talking to AI. And some people, like you said, like Stan was talking about somebody who knows it's like using it as a therapist. Like here you are having a therapy session, and like all these engineers are reading it later. Like that's some things you want to have privacy around.
I know this person that actually takes care of your elderly, parent, and in this situation when you're a caregiver and you have the psychological problems, and I saw this person basically talking to ChatGPT, maybe Gemini, I'm not sure which one, but actually it was pretty good, because the Gemini is actually acting like a psychotherapist, just helping with like very simple human advice. That thing is great, but it's an example of something you don't want this to be released, right? If this conversations are released, it's going to be really bad for this person, I think, just psychologically. And if you have just like at home your own like clone of ChatGPT, then I think that's probably going to be the solution.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Ben.
Oh, I was just going to say, kind of going full circle, I'm curious on how quantum computing is going to affect the ability of AI, you know, with the whole idea of quantum computing is to allow complex, processes and understanding. And, I think that's been the biggest issue with AI is at times you can't be complex with it. So I guess, do you think when quantum computing becomes, perfected and easily usable, and AI starts to jump in, is that when we're going to get Starknet? Is that when the world ends? When AI and quantum computing comes together? I'm half joking, half serious.
I think, if you just follow the physicists, right? And I mentioned Roger Penrose, who is the Nobel Prize winner, and he is probably the most famous physicist that's actually working on quantum computers. What he says, what his theory is that we are quantum computers. So basically, he says that in our neurons there are quantum computers. So it's almost for sure that when quantum computer is invented, it will be like a human.
Is this kind of I was talking to somebody once and may have had a few drinks and was talking about this premise, like you and I've talked about this too, where there's people that have this belief. I didn't realize this, but I was that imagine you're this you have this mega society of supercomputers that are the ultimate life form, and they're let's go procreate. Time to you is very different than time to us as a human. Time to a fly is different than time to a human or an elephant, right? So these robots are going to live for forever, billions of years, trillions of years. So they're oh, let's go set up a colony over here. Let's send some microbes over, and they'll land on this planet. This planet has the right, and then life will develop. And then over about 150 million years, you'll eventually have humans. These primitive creatures will then build the first robots that are really the evolution of us. And then eventually we'll have quantum versions that will build us. And then we'll be living there on this planet. It's better than us just flying there and setting up.
Absolutely.
Is that what he's saying? Is that what Roger Penrose is saying? That
yeah, exactly. And we have actually incredible number of facts that actually support the theory. Just to give you one fact, I mean, we see that one of the reasons to believe that humans are machines, and in general animals are machines, is that all animals follow the same basically architecture, right? We all have spine. No matter if we are birds or apes, we have 4 arms and whatever legs, and we have the head and the eyes. So we really, the biology, really, you look at biology, you see a machines that have very much the same design, just some tweaks. And if there would be Darwinian evolution, designs would be very different. So there are many proofs, I think, that we are kind of a second generation intelligence, in the sense that we were created by stronger intelligence. And now if we build this stronger intelligence, then it's gonna propagate more. So it's a propagation mechanism in the universe to propagate consciousness, essentially. So then we start sending out whatever, to the next stars, and then it's kind of I think
here, Roger Penrose has I can't wait to watch these videos. There's all these
it's fantastic. Just search YouTube. He has fantastic videos. Just you guys search it. I just been watching them last week. Yeah, and the videos are very good. Actually, in the UK, there is some kind of a non-profit scientific institution. I forgot the name of it, but they have these lectures and discussions just about science. And you just search for Roger Penrose. You'll find lots of interesting videos about consciousness and brain and
what is it with all these really top tier UK people being top kind of physicists and thinkers? What's that all about?
We got the best education system in the world.
Yeah, the empire. Yeah. I don't know, actually. I mean, it's actually true that, but if you think about this, it's kind of evolved, because I think when science kind of started, it was first, I think, France, right? There was this after French Revolution. I think there were lots of mathematicians and in France and Italy. But at some
And
point,
Germany.
the UK became Germany, yeah. But then the UK became an empire, and there was this kind of a, and still, I think many in physics. There are many people in the UK. I don't know why. Maybe
It's because like as we branched out, right, and we sent everyone back to Cambridge, right, and then you just have lineages of people that have just consistently been in that area, right, and yeah, you know, it's that. I mean, I'd be curious. Like, obviously, you have the likes of MIT and things like that, but I'd be curious to see like percentage of you know, high-ranking physicists and you know, individuals within science and you know, the university that they came from. Yeah.
Okay. Last, maybe we don't do this topic because I think it's so juicy. Maybe we do it next time. I'm going to throw it out there and like, hey, talk to us in the comments if you think it's a good idea. So last night I was at a dinner, which by the way, Tuesday night dinners are always like a bit of a bummer. Like, shit, I wish I were home. Like on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Sunday, I'm like school nights. I'm like, I'm gonna eat a salad and go to sleep early, you know. And I was like, had to go to this big business. It was fun. It was a nice business dinner, but I was seated next to a guy who is disrupting Hollywood. And so he has, I think, one of the first AI movies that is going to come out, like major production movie. It's called Critters. Wow. And Hollywood hates it. Hollywood wants it to die. And then we talked and I was like, wow, you know, that's cool. You're doing this. But here's my question is, when will we be at a point where the world's best movie is created by somebody in their dorm room? And he's just like 2 or 3 years, you know, so all the stuff we're watching, like, get ready. Like there's going to be so much good content, but we keep hearing about it, but not seeing it. So anyways, that's interesting. Like, I think we'd love to hear your quick thoughts, but we should go deep on that. And let's
do that next week.
News going to change too. Cause like, that's, I think, massively going to change also.
Yeah.
And then media and content are just changing so big.
I'm actually all for it because I think like if you guys go to, I don't know how frequently you go to like movie theater. You know, I don't go frequently because I've noticed that recently, like the movies are so boring and unoriginal. The movies have become very unoriginal and they're just producing this like boring stuff. So I think the movies they produce definitely can be produced using AI because AI is about like producing like things which people produced in the past, just more of them. So I think it's great. It's going to be great competition for them because, to be frank, many of the Hollywood studios, like, you know, they're just producing the same stuff all the time.
And it's like they're scared to take a risk. The only thing
it's just
like
the same thing.
Remakes of movies from the 80s or things that are like totally pushing some like, you know, political narrative that they're trying to and it's like they're kind of not just like, let's go create bold content that everyone's gonna like, you know. It's just, so I think they need to get disrupted. Sorry if you're our fans in Hollywood. You can work with us on this if you want. We'll help you.
Yeah, let's definitely save it because I think we can talk. Okay. I think we can do a full episode next week on this because I think there's lots that we can tie into from an X402 perspective from AI and everything. Let's say it's a
gaming too. I think gaming is going to evolve too. Like if it's not just movies, it's games. By the way, that's what another like little teaser. This guy is telling me they're actually building the next, like what entertainment is also going to change. Where remember like choose your own adventure stories as a kid? Imagine that with a movie and having a physical item that you can be like, hey, like you're a kid, you're like, hey, I want to do that. Oh, actually make this person the bad guy. This good, you know, and it's like, you can like the entire thing can just change instantly. And who knows, it'll probably come with some costs. And X402 comes in. So let's, really juicy topic. Let's do it.
100%. Guys, as always, we ran over.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Hey, go close it out.
Yeah, close it out, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We jumped in, we spoke about some really, really cool stuff, and some not so cool stuff. Thank you, the United Kingdom. You've continued to impress me. But as always, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you guys again. No, we won't see you next week.
Why not?
Why?
There's something happening next week.
Really?
Wait, is it next week? No, sorry. It's the week after. We'll see you next week. The week after, we won't see you. Oh, my dates are all wrong. We'll see you next week, and have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. We'll see you next week for episode 18 of Decrypted.
Yeah, bye guys.
Bye.